Good afternoon, friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. And this week's show is called Responsibility. And it seems like it's a word that people throw around constantly. Um, and we do. And it's going to seem like it's a simple show, man. You're talking about responsibility. I already know responsibilities. What is it that we're going to talk about? I'm going to submit to you that responsibility is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in our lives. And I'm going to do my best to show you why or to prove that to you. Now, when we think of responsibility, and if you take a second to think about your responsibilities or what responsibilities are or what a responsibility is, what mainly comes to mind is our obligations, if to simplify it. Sometimes people may think it's our chores. A lot of time with kids, it's like, or many people would think those are our burdens. We have things that we're responsible for. And we have things that, or we have people that we are responsible for, and things that we are responsible for, and we have people that we are responsible to. Now, things that we are responsible for, the number one thing is yourself. You're responsible for yourself. And if you take out the word responsible and use accountable, it makes it a little more understandable what I'm saying. You are accountable for yourself. You are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for how people treat you. You are responsible for how people see you. You are responsible for, bills. Sometimes your family. Depending on who you are in the family, you're responsible, of course, for your kids. You are responsible for food, clothing, and shelter for yourself. And if you have others that you're responsible for, you have to provide food, clothing, and shelter a lot of times for them. We also have things that we are responsible to. Things that we are responsible to, again, that falls on both lists are our kids. And I'm going to delve into that, why they will be on both lists. You are responsible to your relationship, your marriage, your spouse. You have an obligation to them for your relationship. So therefore, you're responsible to them on how you conduct yourself being in a relationship or not being in a relationship. How the things that you do. If you are in a relationship, you're responsible to that person because you have a bargain with that person. You have an agreement with that person. Also, to your job. If a job is paying you to do a certain task, then you are responsible to do that task that you are getting paid for. They're going to hold you accountable because they are paying you for what it is that you are doing. Those are the things that we are responsible to and things that we are responsible for. Now, the reason that why kids are on both lists, we are responsible to our kids and we are responsible for our kids. Now, that means that for our kids, whatever our kids do, we are accountable to them. And we are accountable for them, which means whatever the actions that they do out in the world, people are going to hold you accountable if they are minors, if they are not grown. The things that they do, even if they're grown, they're going to turn around and say, look at you for how you raised your kids. That is an accountability. You're going to be accountable to how your kids act in public. They'll look at the child that's acting up, that's talking, that's not showing any respect to elders or anything like that, but they're going to attribute that to parenting. So your kids are extended accountability that you have. So you're accountable for how your kids conduct themselves. You're also responsible to your kids socially, by law, to provide them with food, clothing, and shelter. You have to treat them in a certain manner that's not abusive. You are responsible for that. So that's why the children, they fall under both categories, to and from. For your spouse, you may have an agreement depending on whether you're the man or the woman, or on your responsibilities. Depending on whether you're a man or a woman, your responsibilities to your household. Traditionally, a man will provide the food, clothing, and shelter. And your definition of providing the food, some people will say, well, he provides the food and I'm cooking the food, or whatever. Traditionally, now people buy food. I mean, those things are blurred, but it's still, as an adult, parenting adults, you are responsible for food, clothing, and shelter for someone else when you bring kids into this world. But at the most innate state, you are responsible for food, clothing, and shelter of yourself. If no one is providing that for you, once you become an adult, once you leave home, whatever, you are responsible for your own food, clothing, and shelter. You can apply for whatever the government is going to give you, but you have to apply. The government is not just going to come to you and say, hey, we need to give you food so you can survive. Either you're going to work for it, you're going to go to the government and get some type of government funding for something, but you have to go do something to get food, clothing, and shelter for yourself. Even going out to find food, clothing, and shelter for a homeless person, they have to go find a bridge to get up under, especially if it's rain. They got to go find a place to get warmth, some type of shelter from the elements. They have to go out there and ask for food, beg for food, or go find some place that's providing food for them. Now, sometimes people go to them and bring them food, but that's not going to be the case, because if they were in a place that no one could find them, and they would have to find food. So those are things that people are responsible to, and those are some of the things that we are responsible for. Now, the list can go on. Of course, we have a lot of people or things that we are responsible to, and a lot of things that we are responsible for. Responsibilities are sometimes assigned. Responsibility are sometimes things that you take. You are held accountable for certain things, for someone, by someone, for some things, by someone, or to somebody. They hold you accountable, or they hold you responsible to protect them. Your children. Something happened, they run to you. Even if something you didn't cause, or they fall and they scrape their knee, or they get hurt, who they run? They run to you to provide something, because you are the one that is responsible to them. To give them medication, to find out whatever it is that they need in any type of situation that happens. Now, in a transitive way, responsibility is the most important thing in many of our lives. If you're a religious person, you are saying that you're going to take responsibility, or you think someone else is taking responsibility or holding you accountable for your actions for you to get into this heaven. They're not going to make it easy. If you do the right thing, and depending on what your religious beliefs are, but most times it's going to be you have to do these certain things to make it to where you want to go for your salvation. That's your responsibility. No one else's responsibility. It's not your pastor's responsibility. It's not your imam's responsibility to go after you and say, hey, why did you do this? Or why did you could listen to someone tell you what to do and what not to do, teach you what to do and what not to do. But if in that world, you're going to be held accountable on the day of judgment. The most important thing in our lives is responsibilities. This responsibility in a transitive way determines, or is the determining factor for many people's lives, whether you live and die. Responsibilities is a determining factor for many people's freedom or their incarceration. Responsibilities can be the liberty or the oppression of a people. And I'm going to go back and explain each one of those in step as I submit my argument to those things. How you respond in life, how you teach responsibility to your kids, how you are, if you are responsible to your family, yourself, your kids, or your people, will determine how you live and how the future of your people will be and live, how your grandchildren will live. The responsibilities that you take while you're here will determine the quality of life for the future, for your people, for future generations. How you prepare your kids, how you deal with your family. And when I'm saying deal with your family, I don't mean how you just get along, but all those things are taken into consideration. If you build a strong family bond, then that will branch out and that will filter down to your kids and your nieces and nephews and your grandkids and so forth. That bond will be a determining factor for your family, future generations, and for our people. If you take responsibility for all of the above, if we all take that responsibility, we can change the quality of life of our people, not just yourself, but in generations to come. Your responsibility, or you taking the responsibilities for your people, can change the quality of life for our people. If any action happens, we must respond. If we break the word down, responsibility. Now, I hyphenated it for this show because I made it a phrase as opposed to just a word. If you take the word response is what you do when the action takes place, or you respond to something, a situation, an action, or whatever happens. A situation you find yourself in, the circumstances that you find yourself in, a particular action that happens, you must respond. Now, going to the other part, ability. Your abilities are your skill set. That's what abilities mean. Abilities is how well you perform a task, or how well you cannot perform a task. It becomes a disability. And many of us, and many times, have a response disability instead of being responsible and having responsibilities. Many of us function with response disabilities. That means we don't have the skill set to perform the needed task or duties that will make us functional and thrive in the society that we're finding ourselves in. Now, I'm going to pause for a minute. Let me give a shout out to some of y'all that showed up. I appreciate Ladae showing up. Candace, I appreciate you showing up. Sakina, walaikum assalam, sister. I appreciate you showing up. And Sharon, greetings. I appreciate you showing up, sister. And Coretta, I appreciate you showing up. So what my point is I'm trying to show you why I feel that responsibility is one of the most important things, if not the most important things in our existence. Abilities is your skill level and how well you perform a certain task or your duties. How you perform your duties when you're raising your kids. That goes a long way in how they will be when they become adults and how they will in turn raise their kids. How you treated them. The things that you did to them and for them will affect how they see the world and how they may become in their character, and how, not just if they have kids, but just how they will come out and be in the world. whether they're going to care about their people or whether they're not going to care about their people, whether they're going to be selfish or whether they're not going to be selfish. Some people will not do things because of the way that they were raised, and they would think about that person that was raising them. I remember my mom did this, and my mom was doing this and doing everything she can, and I don't want to break my mom's heart. Or sometimes they'll do whatever the hell they want to do, when they want to do it and how they want to do it. But that burden falls on you sometime as a parent. So my question is, what is a response versus a reaction? If you just think for a minute, what is a response versus a reaction? In the world of physics, they say for every action, there's a reaction. And that may be so, but we're not just talking physics. Sometime for every action, there's a response. So I'm asking you, think about what is the difference, or do we even know the difference, or we have a question of the difference between a response and a reaction. Something happens, some people react. Something happens, some people respond. The way you react, or whether you react or whether you respond, could sometimes be a life and death determining situation. The same situation can happen to a group of people. Some people will react, some people will respond. And I'm submitting to you that the difference between a reaction and a response could sometimes means life and death. Like I said, it determines factors of life and death, determining factor in life and death in a lot of situations. A reaction is instinctive. That's what a reaction is. You do something without thinking. As opposed to a response is cognitive. A response is calculated. A response is considering the factors, weighing your options. Now, you may just have a situation where you're not doing all this calculation. You're not going to sit up and say, what should I do? Somebody come into this restaurant and they're shooting. It's not, the response and the reaction is a reaction is just instinctive. If sometimes people react and they'll leave their kids because if something happens, a dog, they're scared of dogs, and you see sometimes these videos and they say, man, she left the kid, or she see a rat, and or he sees them. Sometimes he sees a rat or something, and they just run, leaving somebody behind. I was going to tell y'all something, but something came to mind that somebody left me. I was a kid, and I was helping. I'm gonna tell the story. This is. I remember helping my mom cut the weeds on the side of a house, and it was like the house and the alley. It was just like an alleyway. The fence was there, the house was here, and the weeds. It was vines that grew up. And she had me come. She's like, help me do this, and we got these edges, and we just chopping and doing all this stuff, and we sweating, Texas heat. Then my mom was behind me, so I'm trying to get this done, and then I'm like chopping, and all of a sudden I feel a piercing pain in my side, and I like yell, and she stops and looks at me. And then I look down, and then I see wasps, and she say, what? I say, wasp. And I turned, and she was gone. I'm like, Mom, and she ran into the house, and I'm running. She ran, so I ran. And she ran in there and shut the door. That was her reaction. That's why I laughed. I thought about that. I was like, Mom, you left me. But some people react. That was a reaction. And she probably thought about it. Maybe it was a response too. Like, you could run just as fast, or probably faster than me. So you might run past me. I don't know. That was her response. But that's the difference between a response and a reaction. A reaction is instinctive. A response is something that's cognitive, meaning that it's calculated. Sometimes you consider the factors before you make a decision. What I said about freedom and incarceration, a response or your ability to respond to something could be a determining factor on your freedom or your incarceration. There's a whole lot of people in prison, right now because they had a reaction. They either committed a reaction or they had a reaction. I'm not talking about those people that just went out and did something. I'm talking about those that reacted to something. This person did this, or I killed them. Or their reaction to not having the things that they wanted in life was to go out and do something without really thinking and calculating the consequences thereof. A lot of people are incarcerated because they react. They reacted instead of responded. They didn't consider. You could say, well, some people I'm not just talking about the crime. Some people could be doing the same crime, but they're doing it in a smarter way. They're thinking, they're calculating, they're considering the factors. Should I do this? Should I take this chance? Should I not take this chance? Which is better? Some people that just, they throw caution to the wind. They go do things. They think they can't get caught. They end up being caught, and then they're incarcerated. Thinking and calculating what you do can determine whether you have your freedom or not. That's what I meant by that. Responding, we have something that they call first responders. Response can be, you could prepare for your ability to respond. That means you could build your skill level of a response, having a certain response to certain things. You can build that. It doesn't have to be right now, or you can't. It's not just waiting for something to happen. Your response skills, response abilities can be prepared to help you when certain things happen. Like I said, we have first responders. We have first responders that are firemen. They prepare. That's their job. That's their profession, their discipline. They constantly preparing for a situation where they may have to carry someone out, or they may need two people to carry somebody out. They need to search for kids, so they do their research. Where are kids most likely to hide during a fire? They are prepared to respond. They are first responders. There are people in the hospital, the medical field, emergency room, whatever. Some people rushing things. Like I say, the action could be brought to you. That's your job. You respond. You prepare that. You go to school for it. You get your degree. You train while you own a job, and you start seeing everything, your experiences. And sometime it may be somebody in that hospital, emergency room, and they may be doing something to somebody else that got a little more experience. Say, wait a minute, maybe we need to do this or do this. And someone takes control of a situation that got a little more experience because they seen something like this before. They heard of something like this before. First responders, they train themselves. You can prepare for and enhance your abilities to respond to certain situations. Now, if you say, a lot of times people say, well, my first reaction was to do this. A lot of times we do respond. A lot of us respond to things, especially if it's something like at our job. Sometimes somebody may say something to you and you say, man, my first reaction, this person said this, was to choke this lady or to hit this dude or to curse this person out. But you're at your job and you want to be a professional. So you thought about it. You already prepared. You thought about. And some people that's at a job, they don't have that. They react. They don't sit up there and think about, and you'll say, man, why did you do that? You're going to lose your job over something, they shouldn't have said that, and they just go off a reaction. And these a lot of times the people that end up losing jobs, finding themselves in dire situations, or sometime behind bars. You just assaulted this person because they said something. Now they're going to charge you with the assault. Sometimes you get pulled over. You're reacting instead of responding. Should I say this? Should I say this to this police officer that may be infringing upon my rights? But maybe he's trying to bait you into acting a certain way. Sometimes when we have these incidents or these situations in public, some people may be trying to bait you into getting upset and acting a certain way because they want to be able to say, I acted in self-defense. They want to call you the N-word. They want to do this, or they want to, say all this, and then you say, well, you're going to come at them, and they're going to respond because they thought it was calculated. They was prepared for that. You reacted, not thinking. And sometimes people die because of that. the factors, determining factors of life and death. Am I right if I do this? Am I really defending my life? Am I fearing for my life? Is it this type of situation? Or am I just acting and having a reaction? That is the difference between a response and a reaction. And if something could determine your life and death, that is one of the most important things to you. It got to be one of the most important things to yourself is you living and dying. But we don't treat that, our responsibility, as something that we should be worried about. We only think about responsibilities as paying a bill, going to my job, showing up at a certain time. But that's at a certain level. Our ability to respond to things, our skill set. You can respond a certain way and you can think about it. Somebody else may respond in a better way. And you may not just have a reaction. What you want to do is make your response second nature to it seems like it's just a reaction. But the difference in it being a reaction is because you prepared for situations. When I say this, when I say anytime I'm somewhere and I'm with women or something, I say I'm responsible for them. I'm responsible for their safety. That's what I basically mean. I'm responsible for them getting home safely to their family, to their kids, and if they live alone, just so they get home safely, so that anybody that they say, well, they was here with him, or I'm responsible for that. If that means that if I'm out eating somewhere with family, whatever, and they're women, then I say I'm taking that responsibility. Not only am I just taking that responsibility saying, well, if something happened, okay, a gunman come in, he's shooting, that means I'm running at them, I get shot, then everybody that I was talking about I'm responsible for gets shot. That's not really preparing for a situation. And it still may happen like that, but at least it's going to be well thought of. I'm going to tell, and many people that deal with me, some of them don't realize. I always say, well, I ask somebody, well, where's the exit at? Well, that's where we came in at, and I'm not talking about that. What if the fire is at the place we came in at? What if the gunman is coming in at the place we came in at? You're not going to run out the door. My thing is you have to think about those things, and those things I thought about, so that's how I'm preparing for my response. I'm looking at exit doors, emergency exit doors, fire extinguishers, weapons, tools that I'm not necessarily, if I don't have something on me or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, this fire extinguisher is a tool, it's a defense weapon, I could shoot it all the way across the room. Fire extinguishers go a long distance. And I'm thinking about that. So when I go into a table, some people I'm going and they show up and I'm already at the table with them. And I'm like, man, they picked the table and that's farthest away from the exit. But what I do also is I look at the exits and the entrances. When I go to the restroom, is it a window in there? Is it a lock on the door? Is it many stalls that don't have a lock where you just push the door open? Is it no way to lock and I could tell them run to the bathroom, and I could run towards or try to be a distraction so that they could have time to go. But I think about do this, go there. Somebody, when you give a command, sometimes that's what people, they need a command. Instead of everybody just reacting, the first thing they think of, people freeze, people try to hide. People don't think about the difference between their concealment and their cover. Conceal and cover. The difference. The conceal is just hiding. Cover is taking cover with something that's a defense. The bullets can't go through this. So when I say that I'm taking that responsibility, these are the things I'm thinking about. This is what I'm prepared and I'm thinking about in every situation. Not just for myself, but others. I'm like, okay, what can I do? Or if something happened, what would be the best response if this thing is happening here? Or this thing is happening outside? Is there emergency exit? Sometimes it's better to go out the emergency exit. Now, I've known situations. I was talking to a friend of mine about some people, that things that happened and they got killed going out having fun at a club and getting into an altercation. and what should have happened and what did not happen. And these are the things I prepare for, even if I'm just watching the news. When I hear a certain situation and I say, what could that person have done to avoid this? And people tell me, people close to them, this is what happened. They got into a fight at this place. And I was like, well, in my mind, I'm like, the first thing you should do is leave. Don't let that person leave before you. I mean, me and my man was talking about this. Both of us were together on this. Anything that happened, I'm leaving. I'm not sticking around. I'm not thinking this person is weak or whatever. That person could go to their car and get a gun and wait for you outside. And here you are at a place that they don't allow weapons. Now you coming outside and now you getting ambushed. Before they leave, I'm leaving. That's what my point is. It's like you prepare a response before put in a situation for a response to happen. Some things you're not going to be prepared for, but you still can respond because you're developing your skills or your skill set to think. Okay, what's the best thing to do? To damage control. That's what I'm getting at. Your responsibility is the skills that we are able to control ourselves when confronted with a situation. Every situation you are not prepared or you're not thinking it's going to happen, but sometimes your abilities to respond is preparing for things to happen when you're not expected or not expecting things to happen. You got to be on lookout for things to happen. Some people can say, I'm responsible for you. I'm responsible for my kids. And you say, I'm responsible for my kids and my house. And many of us, I could put you in this predicament because many of us have been at home with our kids in the house. If you're a woman and a man is not there at that time, you may be married, but your husband ain't there. And you have your kids with you. And you are that first responder. Somebody's trying to get in the house. Is there a weapon in the house? Do you have a place for your kids to hide? Do you have a place for them to, to go? If the house catch on fire, meet up here. Are you teaching your kids these things? If it's a fire in the house, everybody meet at a certain spot. This is being responsible. Not just saying, well, I give you food. I'm the reason you got lights on over your head. I'm the reason that you have clothes on your back, and then that's all you throwing in their face. But you should be the reason that they survive in an emergency. You should be the reason that they survive in an emergency at the school, because you should be going over those type of things with them. If something happens, what are you going to do at your school? You see all these school shootings. What are you going to do? You going to hide under your desk? Now I'm thinking in my mind of all these things that's happened in society where people got killed because they didn't think, or they listened to somebody that wasn't thinking. The teacher told these people to hide up under the desk, and the gunman came in, a student, gun kid came in there and basically started shooting them. Like, that's you thinking you're concealing yourself, but all they got to do is look under the table. That's not even good concealment. And then a lot of times when people are shooting, you should take cover. Hide behind. Don't hide in the bushes. Yeah, that could help, but the bullet's gonna go straight through bushes if they're shooting randomly. That's concealment and not cover. Cover and concealment. But learning all these type of things is what I'm saying. When some people did the degree of saying of their abilities, saying that I'm responsible, I'm taking these responsibilities, they differ. The levels of your abilities. So somebody could say, I'm taking responsibility for my woman, something happened in public, and you're not prepared. Because all you're doing is just sticking your chest out saying, I'm taking responsibilities. But you're not preparing yourself to deal with responsibilities. And it's not just about you surviving. If that person you're taking responsibilities for, you got to do something so that they can survive, even if that means the detriment of you and you losing your life. That's what it means to me when I say I take responsibilities to the fullest. Some people don't mean that. To some people, that means that if something happened, I'm going to be speaking up. But if something, it goes too far, fear takes over reaction. You start reacting instead of thinking and being that first buffer. And that's extreme. I'm talking about extreme. And sometimes things are like that in a lesser sense. If you have a profession, you prepare yourself. If you are going for a job, they are looking at your qualifications, your resume, telling them, and your experience. They are going to select a person for the best job. If you're looking for a babysitter, you and your spouse, y'all looking for a babysitter, y'all want to go out, and it's a man sitting up here want to be a babysitter. It's a woman over here, an older woman, want to be a babysitter. Well, sir, you have any kids? No. This woman, she may be a grandmother. She raised 5 kids, and I got 12 grandchildren, and I take care of all. Then you're going to be more inclined to say, okay, this person is more qualified because they have experience. That's what your job do. If you're going to be an accountant, they want to know, did you go to school for this? Did you do all the things you needed to do so that we can trust you? You have to instill within yourself, when I said the first person you're responsible for is you. The first person that you're responsible for, when you if you're a woman and if you're going out for a man, you're responsible for yourself. You should be looking at any red flags that this person may have before you putting yourself in a vulnerable situation to be out with them. You should be letting people know, this is where I'm going. If you're getting in his car, this is his license. I don't care what you do. That's up to you, the level you want to go. We're going to your house. This is my first time going. Let me let people know the address and where I'm at right now. Those are things that you do. You're responsible for yourself. If you have kids, you're responsible for them. If you have elderly people, you're responsible for them, or you can be. Now, everybody wants to be responsible for others. And that, to me, that goes on how we are raised. And we have a people that's not wanting to be responsible for each other. This is the predicament that we're finding ourselves in. Because they say, always as a people, this is what they say about black people. A lot of times I hear this. We are always reacting instead of being proactive. We're always reacting. An action happens and we always react. We start seeing all these drugs in our neighborhood. And a lot of times the reaction is, look at these drug dealers. Look at these dumb people on drugs. Look at these people doing drugs. You're not looking at the whole situation or calculating what is actually happening. Why am I seeing all these drugs in my neighborhood? What is so enticing about this drug game that people are getting this money for? And we're not looking at, the way to combat this may be not just taking the slogan that they threw us, say no to drugs, because you're going to say yes to selling drugs when you see the money. If we teach our kids that money is not everything, but many of us treat money as if it's everything. So something that happens that's going to entice you, that's the thing that's going to entice you, is because they're going to see the money behind it. They're going to see this drug dealer driving around with these European cars, this jewelry. They're going to see women flocking to that. That's on us. That's on us having responsibility for our generations and how we raise our people and our kids. When I said that the liberty or oppression of our people is determined by our responsibility, our abilities to respond to things. It can determine our liberty or our oppression and to continue oppression. It will give us liberation if we start to think about, I am responsible for the well-being of our people, so I'm going to do these type of things that's going to help our people to gain liberty, financial freedom, spending my money here. Not acting as if money and those that have money are all powerful. Because the ones that have money are the main people that have money are those that are oppressing you. A lot of the other people that have money in our communities are those that are helping the oppressors. You are doing the oppressor's job when you are selling drugs to your own people. Instead of looking at the cars and the jewelry and the girls that that person is getting as a young man, you should be teaching them. You see that? That's a person that's killing us. That's one of the people that's the detriment of our people. That person is working for those that want us to die. Because there are those people that are putting the drugs into our community. They're not putting those drugs in the community because they want us to prosper. They are not holding back the employment or making the employment in our communities twice as bad. And we could sit there and look at the unemployment and our conditions in our community. And that's a teachable moment. If we want to be responsible, we want to take responsibilities. We could say, look, this is the effects of us not having jobs to offer our own. This is the effects of us not having the things or the liberation or the freedom, financial freedom, to where I can offer our kids jobs or opportunities. They're going to someone else to get opportunities. So therefore, they're at the mercy of someone else that doesn't look like you. Who has power that put themselves in those type of predicaments or remain in those type of predicaments, however that we got there? So our goal should be trying to get out of those type of situations. It is our responsibilities that's going to determine if we get out of those type of situations. If you teach your kids, if you start to see for yourself, if you start to read for yourself or learn from yourself or look at shows that is talking about these things, instead of spending a lot of your time doing things that is not going to help your people. If you're spending a lot of your time that's not going to provide you with food, clothing, and shelter, guess what you're going to lack? Or you're going to be the mercy of those that have it, that's going to be saying, should I give it to you or not? You're going to be down there at the government office begging for it. Or you're going to be like that homeless person on the street begging for it, at the mercy of those of the kindness of others. If we as a people are not trying to provide for ourselves our own food, clothing, and shelter, then we are going to be at the mercy of someone else, and who they're going to be the ones that's going to be in power over us. If we are a people that are not trying to teach our kids the qualities that they need, the morals and ethics that they need, if we are spending our time as a parent looking at the ball game and then just going to work every day, just giving them food, clothing, and shelter, and nothing more than that, not opening their eyes to what's around them because we don't have our eyes open, then guess what we're going to be at? This is the liberation or the oppression of our people at stake. Taking the responsibilities. Taking the responsibilities to learn. Taking the responsibilities to want to learn. To understand. I don't know this. I heard, I got a book. It's called Tomlin. It was a book fair here last year, and I went and bought a book, and one of the guys that wrote it is a black author. And it's Tomlin, the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it says, the name of the book is The Soul of a Football Coach. And he's much more than a football coach. And I appreciate Tomlin. I saw something I was working on earlier. They had him on TV. And some of the things that's in his book are some of the things that he said. He was telling this person on this interview because they're looking at him dealing with his team. One of the things he said, this is a man versus himself type of battle. And he's talking to the football players, preparing and practicing whatnot, study. And that's translatable outside of the sport. When a coach can teach you things as a man or as a woman or as a person that you can guide your life with. He said this is a man versus himself battle. In the report, she said, what does that mean? He's like, you got to look within yourself, what it is your deficiencies are, to know what you need to get better at. You are not battling your opponent necessarily. You are battling yourself sometimes. The first battle is within yourself. Your first responsibilities are to yourself. You got to look in the mirror and say, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm not good at. This is what I need to get better at, so that I could be better with my response abilities, with my skills. I got to look at my skills and see what I'm deficient at, and try to get better. Or provide my kids with someone that has these type of skills, where I may provide them with something, and I may not be able to provide them with something else, but at least I could bring those type of people into their environment, or send my kids to this person that's teaching these type of things, or direct them to videos about our leaders that are teaching these things. That is your responsibility, because they are your responsibility. We have to be responsible for ourselves and for the abilities that we have to react to circumstances, to react to an action that somebody else may impose upon us, or anything that comes up, anything that we see is wrong and we want to respond. We don't want to just react, and we got to teach them in small ways. See, this is what the reaction should have been. I know on the John Kev show a couple of weeks ago, me and my brother John, we was talking about shedding blood, as far as distancing yourself from family members and things that happen when we have family get-togethers. And he was saying those are teachable moments to kids. Even if they wasn't there, you could go and say, this is something that happened at the party for adults. You got an uncle and two uncles going at it, or an uncle and your aunt's husband going at it. You could talk about. You have to be teaching kids constantly about relationships, even if it's people they love. Just like you teach them about, it could be somebody you love that could be not a good person. They may treat you like because you're, this person always gives me candy, or this person always pinches my cheek. But that don't mean that they're a good person. I remember my daughter asking me when she was young, and it was like, something in she was like in elementary school, and she's telling kids like monsters don't exist. And she told me, she said, right, Dad, they think some, kids thinking monsters exist or some scary movie stuff. And she's like, right, monsters don't exist. No, they do. And she looked at me shocked. Like, you believe in monsters? You're like, what you mean? And I told her, I said, monsters could look like anybody. A monster could look like a police officer. A monster could look like a school teacher. A monster could look like somebody in our family, or a neighbor, or someone you speak to. And I said, the monsters, they don't want to necessarily bite your neck and suck your blood out your neck or anything like that. Sometimes they want to do things to you because of the way you look, or they want to do things to you because you're a girl. And this is a conversation I remember having with my daughter. Monsters exist. They could be in your family, and it is up to family to protect our kids from whomever the monsters are, whomever the monsters in society are. It could be somebody you don't know, or it could be somebody you know. And this is how, because I'm responsible for her vision of the world, even at that age. My responsibilities or my skills, and I've had to grow. And I'm still growing. And one thing that Tomlinson said is, he said, the worst thing you could do is lie to yourself. It's to act like you are something that you're not. Acting like you are prepared for something that you're not. That's one of the worst things, to make your family think that you are prepared for something that you're not prepared for. That they're going to get, that you're going to be able to protect them in situations. And sometimes you got to let them know, I'm not going to always be there. So I need you to learn things that you need to do. Constantly drill that into their heads. You got to prepare your kids for life. That's our responsibilities. And you got to prepare yourself to teach your kids, to be able to teach your kids, to know what to say to your kids. And a lot of us fall short with that. And I'm not, like you said, the worst thing you could do is lie to yourself. And a lot of times Because we lying to ourselves, we are not prepared for situations. A lot of people tell me, like, man, you always argumentative, like you always debating this, or I'm saying this and you always, and I'm not just argumentative, if that's what you want to say, quote unquote argumentative, but it could be anything, and it could be sports, it could be what you're saying about this. I challenge complacency, the complacency of the use of wisdom, the complacency in using logic. And I tell people, you're not logically, that doesn't make sense. And it has nothing to do with something grand, but even the smaller things, I'm pressing people, use logic. That's preparation for a response to things. Because this person said this, you can respond to something that somebody is saying, and you can say, oh man, that person said that sounds good, and you just believe it. And then I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to say, well, what about this? What if that he's giving you something that you just accepting as being true, and he's basing what his conclusion is off of something that's not even true? Then where did that leave you? And I'm saying question that. Well, I knew you was going to do that. I knew, but let's just say, I'm saying, okay, so hypothetically speaking, this is what we're talking about. I'm not going to say that this person, they found this, or they did this. Who was they and what did they find? And let me look it up. Because what I'm getting at is those things that you're taking for granted. You're going to take things in granted that somebody is going to be able to manipulate you by giving you false information, lies with truthful information, or things that sound true. We have to be prepared to respond in our abilities. We got to build our skill level to challenge ourselves, challenge our logic, challenge what we think we know, challenge what we learned, what we thought we learned, what we thought was true. Go back and keep asking yourself, why is it that I believe this? Who told me this? Who told me that Thanksgiving is a day that we're supposed to be thankful? Who gave me that date? Why am I doing that? Who's justifying it? If it's just something I like to do, I have to be able to say that. I can't lie to myself and then try to convince you in a lie. We have to be better at what we do. I have to be better in what I do. I'm going to read a comment. I'm sorry, Barbara. She said, I know that was like 12 minutes ago. You said safety is first by all means, and we should be aware of our surroundings at all times. She said, good info. I appreciate that. I appreciate KB showing up. Like I said, Barbara Roy, I appreciate you showing up. And Sharon said, yes, children get abused by family members and people you trust. And not only that, to extend that, family get abused by people that love them because it's abusive not to prepare them for that monster that's out there. Society. How society is going to see you. How people that look like you in your society. It's not just sexual abuse or whatever. We abuse each other normally. We abuse our people normally because we don't patronize each other. We don't trust each other. We don't build the trust in each other. If the trust is not there, then we need to build that, because that is a key component for our liberation. For the strengthening of our people. If we don't trust each other, how can we ever bond together? We have to build that trust. We have to build that trust within our kids. I'm not saying being stupid and saying, oh, this person, because they look like this, or because they with us, or they look like us, they're good people. I'm not saying that. You teach them how to discern the good from the bad. We have to teach each other that. And many of us are running around without that type of knowledge of looking at each other and trying to determine what is best for us, and taking the responsibilities to say that this is what I need to do. Just like you make sacrifices to go to work because you need that money or whatever you're doing. You make sacrifices for your family. You make sacrifices for your kids. You make sacrifices when you're cooking meals because you could be doing something else that you'd rather be doing. You're making those sacrifices. We have to teach them to make sacrifices. We have to make sacrifices for other things that will help our people, and learn what those things are. Give up some of these enjoyable things that do nothing for us as a people. So the mirror is there. We have to stop lying to ourselves at many times and thinking that we are doing because I'm not doing everything. I know I'm not doing everything I could be doing or should be doing, and I got to look, what else can I do? What am I doing wrong? What is it that I can do? How can I treat someone else better, or who's around me that I need to shed? I have to learn those type of things. I have to constantly learn those type of things. I have to look at what relationships I could build and bond or try to build, and what relationships are doing you no good. What TV shows are you watching where you could be spending that time trying to help your kids, or understand their responsibilities in life? I appreciate Mary showing up. And that's just about everything I had with y'all. The responsibilities, your ability to respond, and it will help us responding to some of the things that we are submitted to in society. A lot of times we respond a day late and a dollar short. And we have to wonder why, and study why, and come up with reasons why, and prepare ourselves to correct those type of things. And we will be better as a people. And like Mary said, taking accountability. It's our obligation. You're accountable for yourself foremost. You're accountable for your kids, your family, and you're accountable for your people. Start being accountable for your people. And I know that's a tough thing to do, but what's making it tough? You gotta clear those obstacles, remove those obstacles. Being able to work with people that don't think like you. You got to be able to do those type of things for the betterment, not of now, but of the future. Kevin Oss on the Blueprint. I appreciate everyone showed up. Peace.